So good morning, everyone. We are calling this press briefing this morning for the purpose of responding to the recent statements and pronouncement made with respect to the issuance of an alleged warrant of arrest by the International Criminal Court, and whether or not the recently released rules by the Supreme Court on extradition do apply to this particular matter. So we're joined this morning by Chief State Counsel Dennis Chan and the Prosecutor General Richard Padulyon. So without further ado, I would like to give the floor to Chief State Dennis Chan for statements with respect to this issue.
Thank you, Prosecutor Polo. Good morning to everyone. Thank you for coming all the way here to BGC. Over the weekend, there were reports circulating that the ICC has issued a warrant of arrest against Senator Dela Rosa. And it was mentioned that the process to be observed in implementing this warrant of arrest is through extradition. This now was related or connected to the recent issuance of the Supreme Court on the rules on extradition. So we are just here this morning to address and clarify any misconception that may be had on the matter, and that under RA 9851, the state has two options available to it. That is extradition and surrender. So to close the door on one option and just focus entirely on extradition is limiting the state's discretion under Section 17 of RA 9851. I'd also like to inform everyone that the Supreme Court rules on extradition was actually brought about by the Department of Justice request for the Supreme Court to come up with uniform guidelines on how to resolve requests for extradition. This request was relayed to the Supreme Court sometime in the first or second quarter of 2023. And several meetings of a technical working group were conducted to deliberate and come up with the final draft of these rules on extradition. It just so happened that the rules came out at this point in time where all of these issues or controversy surrounding extradition is being discussed publicly. So with that being said, I know you have more questions than you would want to listen to me. So I would just open the floor for questions. Maybe Polo, you can.
So we will be accommodating few questions given the Chief State's time restriction. So any questions for you, please? Yes, ma'am.
Hi po, Yang from Rapper. Good morning. Sir, is the Philippine government decided that what it will implement is the surrender? Just like what you did with former President Duterte, like sure na kayo na you will do the same thing?
At this point in time, the state is seriously studying all options available to it. We are not closing the door on extradition or surrender per se. And until now, we have not seen nor received a copy of this ICC warrant of arrest. So lahat to in the theory space pa lang tayo. What we in the Department of Justice just want to come out in the open and explain that there are two options available to the state under RA 9851, and that is extradition or surrender.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, can you, I'm Sandra Aguinaldo from GMA7. Sir, can you clarify, are we saying that the arrest warrant is not yet confirmed? And also, sir, have you heard from Senator Bato, would surrender be in the works at the moment, sir?
Yeah, we have not seen nor received any copy of this ICC warrant of arrest. We are just reacting to what we heard over the weekend and what has been circulating online. As to the senator, so the good senator reaching out to us, also we have not received any, nor I don't think he will be making such a representation considering na wala pa. There's nothing to speak of, no ICC warrant.
Sir.
Sir, Adrian Ayaling po, ABS-CBN. Sir, what's keeping the government from choosing yung surrender na option considering yun po yung ginawa last time? Bakit hindi po uulitin yung ginawa last time kay former President Duterte?
Well, the government, we are just one piece of the entire structure of government. So a lot of considerations would have to be taken. We are also mindful of the fact that there are still pending petitions before the Supreme Court So as a matter of practicality and yung propriety, we may have to wait for the Supreme Court to decide on the issue because our position is that is the one being questioned by the camp of the former president. So, yun, madaming mga kailangan timbangin, maraming kailangan na tingnan na aspeto from different angles. No? Yeah.
But sir, theoretically, if you are going to differentiate the two, yung surrender and yung extradition, ano po yung mas madali and mas practical na gagawin ng government if and when na meron akong arrest warrant?
Theoretically speaking, the faster approach would be surrender because if we go through the extradition route, there will be a request for extradition coming in through the Department of Foreign Affairs. It will be transmitted to the DOJ for evaluation. We will file it with the proper trial court. Magkakaroon ng pseudo hearing to determine whether or not the request is compliant with the extradition treaty and the extradition law of the Philippines. After which, doon lang ma-extradite yung tao. So we are looking at possibly months, whereas kung surrender, very definitely shorten ang process time.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Jonah po from Asahi Shimbun. Is the fact that Senator Bato is a serving lawmaker, is that a factor in your consideration if you can surrender him?
I could not comment on that for the meantime. We are just looking at the legal aspect, but possibly worth considering yung puntong yan that the senator is an incumbent senator.
Is there anything in Philippine law that prevents government from, surrendering or giving up jurisdiction over an incumbent legislator or anybody serving currently in government?
Can you clarify?
Is there anything that prevents, is there anything written in our laws that prevents the government from surrendering serving legislator up to a foreign entity? Or is just that parang...
Hello, good morning. Yeah, actually, there is, if you're talking about the possibility of the arrest and the possibility of probably having or raising the issue of immunity, there's no such thing as immunity even if you are a legislator. Now, of course, there are certain restrictions. If the penalty is more than 6 years in one day, then the same cannot be implemented during the time when Congress is in session. But certainly, there's no restriction as to the arrest. If, for example, they are on recess, although we have heard the good senator already make some statements before that he would seek possible asylum or refuge in the Senate. We do not know if that is the position that he still would be taking at this time. But certainly, that is one matter that can be or that will be taken into account in deciding what action or what course of action the government will take.
Yes, sir.
So can we consider if hypothetical warrant of arrest by the ICC, can we consider it as a request within the context of an extradition, considering that we are no longer signatory? Mr. Hansen.
Theoretically, no. Because a warrant of arrest has a different purpose than request for extradition. There is a proper wording template na sinusunod when it comes for a request for extradition. And may proseso din na sinusundan, which is you have to go to DFA also. So technical, the process of extradition is very technical. Kaya nga, there is also the other quote-unquote simpler approach of surrender under RA 9851.
Just a few more questions. Yes, sir.
Sorry, pa-clarify, Ian Lapi po of Philstar.com. Pwede nyo pa-clarify lang po. Paano po magiging possible ang extradition in this case if the ICC is not a state party?
Okay. ICC, you're correct, ICC is not a state that will fall under the definition of a requested state under our extradition law. So, now, ang question dyan is if they come up with a request for extradition, wala din tayong treaty to begin with ICC to process that. So, yun hanggang doon na lang ang sasabihin.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, are you considering following Article 59 this time just to be prudent yung dadalhin sa competent judicial authority? And if you do, is that a unique process or are you automatically going for extradition pag dinala niyo na siya sa judge?
As mentioned by Chief Chano, that was the route that was taken earlier when the arrest of former President Duterte was undertaken. But precisely because there are pending petitions before the Supreme Court that we want to be more circumspect in any action that we will be taking. We just do not want the government to be restricted in the options that it will have by saying that extradition is the only route. Because as mentioned also, extradition will take a longer time than you would if, for example, the option of surrender was taken into account. So obviously, at this time, we want to be more careful because the circumstances then and the circumstances now are quite different. At that time, there was no petition yet which was raised or filed before the Supreme Court. Now, courtesy to the Supreme Court, we would probably have to await, or we would prefer to await the resolution of the Supreme Court on the pending petitions before we can come up with a more definitive action.
Sir, sorry, quick follow-up. Do you mean to say that if ever mas naunang i-transmit yung warrant of arrest or red notice at wala pang resolution yung Supreme Court, you would wait as in hindi pa i-implement yung red notice kasi wala pang resolution?
Well, yan nga yung pinag-aaralan ngayon, kung anong gagawin kung halimbawang nandiyan na. Kasi right now, everybody's talking about a hypothetical situation. We've heard over the weekend about the warrant of arrest being issued, but we have yet to see a copy of the warrant. But then again, notwithstanding that fact, we are already in the process of discussing what course of action to take, whether it would be a prudent course to immediately implement the arrest, notwithstanding the fact that there is no resolution yet from the Supreme Court. What we're simply saying is that as far as the department is concerned, we would ought to have that resolution from the Supreme Court so that once and for all, at least it could be decided whether the first course of action undertaken by the government when the arrest of the former president was undertaken in March would be the correct course of action, or if there is any other option. If the court says it's extradition, then we will have to abide by the ruling of the Supreme Court.
Hi sir, good morning po, Gran po from Bombo Radio. Sir, since we have information na nagsasabi na meron ng arrest warrant and yet we are saying na wala pa po. Sir, for the information to the public, kanino po ba dapat namin malaman or sa anong ahensya ng gobyerno namin malalaman kung meron ng arrest warrant na in-issue laban kay Senador Bata Dela Rosa, sir?
I suppose it would have to be coursed through the Department of Foreign Affairs if there was really a copy of the warrant, and then the Philippine Center for Transnational Crimes would be the ones who would have or would be furnished a copy of the same. Then that's the only time transmittals would be made to the relevant agencies or law enforcement agencies directed to implement the same.
Sir, to clarify lang, yung option na surrender, does that include voluntary surrender on the part of the extraditee?
Yes, that would be the easiest course. If, for example, there is a voluntary surrender on the part of the person requested, that would mean that it would be a shorter and a much faster route than having to implement the warrant, look for him, and then actually put him under custody.
Sir, at this point, are we monitoring already the whereabouts of the senator, or wala pa naman pong requests from the Interpol?
Right now, I don't think there is any request yet coming from the Interpol, and I don't think it would also be right for us to be monitoring the movements of Senator Bato, considering the fact that there is no warrant yet that we have seen. I think it would be best to wait for the warrant to be there and then take the necessary course of action after that.
Okay. No questions?
Sa clarify lang, yung sa petition sa Supreme Court, ito yung kay former President Duterte, tama sir? Pero pag ganun ba sir, kasi yun nga, yung circumstances noon, yung arrest ni former President Duterte yung pinag-uusapan. Pero this time, kay Bato, mag-a-apply din po ba yun?
Remember, the one who filed the petition at the time was it was Senator Bata Dela Rosa. Okay, so we cannot say that why would we have to wait when it pertains to, or the petition refers to, the former president. Actually, it made mention of the procedure which was adopted by government when it implemented the warrant of arrest in March. But since the petitioner in that particular case is Senator Bata Dela Rosa himself, we find it best that we also wait. We wait for the resolution of the Supreme Court on the matter.
Party na rin kasi siya.
Yes, that is correct.
Sir, quickly, would you know kung submitted for reso na yung mga petition?
Well, we have been following it up with the Supreme Court. Now, we have been told to just wait. So, I suppose all the pleadings that we were supposed to file have already been filed, and it's just a matter of time before the Supreme Court probably would come up with its own resolution.
Sir, follow up lang ulit. Parang you mentioned the word courtesy. Mas courtesy lang ba siya talaga? Or, kasi paano ba yun? Kasi wala namang TRO din. Parang for the public, ang iniisip is, kung wala namang TRO, bakit hindi gagawin? So, mas a matter of courtesy lang po ba siya? Or parang pwede rin ba na kung walang TRO, tuloy nyo lang po yung pag-surrender?
Yeah, madali kasing sabihin na parang, since walang TRO, gawin din natin katulad ng ginawa natin dati. But remember, apart from the TRO, there was no petition that was filed yet. The petition was filed immediately after the transport of the former president to The Hague. So, seeing that there is this issue which was raised before the Supreme Court, seeing as it is that these issues were also taken up during the Senate committee hearing headed by the Senator Amy Marcos, we deem it prudent, to be a bit more circumspect and, well, better that these matters which have been raised, legal issues as they are, be first resolved before we take any appropriate action.
The floor is also open to questions regarding updates or developments with respect to the 5 flood control cases. So we invite the media to ask questions as well on this matter.
Sir, what can we expect on Friday? Sa Friday po, sir, yung hearing?
Yes, we were supposed to have the first hearing scheduled for the first 5 cases on ghost projects, which are pending before the Department of Justice to be scheduled for preliminary investigation yesterday. Unfortunately, the weather was not as cooperative, so we decided to forestall the the hearing scheduled yesterday and move it to this Friday. This Friday, the parties, through their lawyers, have already been informed of the resetting. We have gotten, the prosecutors have gotten in touch with them or are getting in touch with them for the schedule on November 14. We expect that on November 14, parties will probably be there together with their lawyers to secure copies of the complaints. The complaints in these cases are quite voluminous, so rather than send it out through registered mail, the prosecution teams opted to have the parties come to the department to secure their copies, make sure that they have all the documents that they need so that they can prepare their defenses.
So wala pa, sir, counter affidavits na may sasubmit?
Well, as of by this Friday, I don't think there will be any counter affidavits that will be submitted yet.
Yes, anymore. So we've extended the time until 8:45. In case there are further questions. Yes, ma'am.
Update na rin ba, sir, dun sa ibang mga deny dun sa mga lawmakers? Di ba may filing din po sa NBI or Department of Justice?
Yes, there were cases that were referred to us, and this is undergoing evaluation. So technically, we cannot make any disclosures yet on the on the facts or pertinent facts pertaining to those cases up until the evaluation process is finished. We expect the evaluation to be terminated within the week, and hopefully by the end of the week or by early next week, we would be able to make an announcement as to the additional cases that have been filed. We would also like to inform the public that cases have been filed for tax evasion against certain contractors, and all of these cases are now undergoing a preliminary investigation also in the Department of Justice.
No more? Okay, so with that, thank you for your time.
Yeah, sorry, before we close, I just remembered that I believe yesterday there was a press statement coming from Attorney Torion saying that surrender under Section 17 of RA 9851 is not yet self-executing. I think it's along those lines, which he said. So, just like to respond that it is the position of the department that that RA 9851 was actually the state's response to its becoming a member of ICC. So, by virtue of the state of the Philippines then acceding to the ICC, Congress intended the provisions under RA 9851 to be self-executing. So, yung Section 17, which says that the state, or in the interest of justice, the state has the option to either do extradition or surrender, that in itself is already self-executing. If we will follow the ruling of the Supreme Court on the Manila Prince case, if I am not mistaken, on what are self-executing and non-self-executing provisions. So, yun, that's all. Thank you.
Sir, mas simple ng self-executing is parang diretso, pwede na.
Pwede na. Like the anti-dynasty law, hindi siya self-executing. It needed a subsequent act of Congress to become self-executing. So, sa surrender or sa RA 9851 naman, it is already self-executing. There is no more need for subsequent legislation to fill in the gaps, so to speak.
Pwede magpahabol, sorry. Sorry sir, balik lang ulit dun sa extradition thing. What possible ba to? Like, for example, if the International Criminal Court goes through the Interpol, and then dahil tayo ay member pa rin ng Interpol, and the Interpol goes through us to implement the arrest, would that be still possible right now?
I believe that is more or less the same with what happened previously. So, still pending. Possible siya. That's one of the options. But again, as PG mentioned, better to adopt a wait-and-see approach for the meantime. The state is not closing its doors on any option available to it under RA 9851 and other laws as well. Okay.
Okay? Yes, ma'am. Ako.
So isang clarify na lang, you haven't heard if the DFA or the PCTC already has the warrant in hand. Wala pong ganong communication sa inyo. Thank you po.
Sir, pag ganyan ba, automatic, sila lang ba yung PCTC or parang because I understand council and the DOJ is part of the council, may ganun po bang parang sistema na informed din kayo agad or dadaan muna talaga sa DFA and PCTC?
As far as I know, it would be course like the last time. I'm not so sure about DFA, but I'm definite about PCTC. Now, the PCT was the one who received it, and they were the ones who supposedly received the red notice and copies of the warrant. So, if that is the same route that if you're asking that if that same route can be taken again, it most likely will be. No, pero as of now, we cannot really say, because we have not received any communication coming from either the Department of Foreign Affairs or the PCTC as to the fact of receipt of the warrant against Senator De La Rosa.
Sir, clarify po ulit. Gaano po kabilis yung process? Like, if the DFA receives the copy of the warrant and then they transmit it to the appropriate agency, pwede po ba siyang yung within the day ma-execute na? Or do we have to wait for a certain number of hours? Or do we have to wait for some signatories before you can transmit the warrant?
Well, if I base it on the events of March earlier this year, the transmittal was quite fast. So, the question now of implementation, like I said, dito na ngayon tayo kasi sinasabi nga natin, we're still studying the options, the legal options that are available to the state as far as implementing the warrant and how it should be implemented. But as far as the transmittal is concerned, if that's what you're asking, yes, the transmittal can be done quite quickly.
So would there be a negative impact in case the country does not comply with the request from Interpol or either from ICC, considering we're no longer a member?
It is possible. We live in a world of interconnected countries and nations now, so we belong to an international community of nations. Even if we may not be part of the ICC anymore, there is still that principle of reciprocity that governs between relations among nations, and in fact, reciprocity and comity. So, while legally, hindi tayo makumpel, but meron din tayong tinitimbang on the diplomatic implication naman of that. So,
if in case you don't comply? Are we gonna lose anything?
I think that would be more of DFA's jurisdiction.
But like, for example, in coordinating with the Interpol,
well, it's already publicized, but if I may, the return of Mary Jane Veloso to the Philippines from Indonesia was a parang gesture of good faith coming from Indonesia. Yun yung mga aspects or areas of cooperation that we may not be able to tap on in the future if masyado tayong nagmatigas na wala naman tayong treaty that speaks of doing this.
sir, does it also apply dun sa mga ibang cases of personalities na may pending allegedly na extradition request?
Which one? Yung the negative?
For example, sir, yung kay Pastor Apollo Kibuloy. Does it also apply, sir? For example, if you don't comply with that? Because in the past, nabalita na rin sila na meron allegedly.
Wait. Okay. I could not yet comment on the issue surrounding Pastor Kibuloy. However, when it comes to the United States of America, we do have an extradition treaty with them. And once we receive a request for extradition coming from a treaty partner, then we are obligated to evaluate it, assess. Kung kulang, we inform them what's lacking. If it's sufficient, then we proceed to file the request for extradition in court. So yun kasi may clear treaty that governs the situation and the process. That's why we have to comply. But in those instances that you inquired earlier na walang treaty, then that state would have to weigh whether we would comply or give in on the basis of reciprocity.
But sir, wala pa bang request from the US?
About
The extradition request for Pastor Tuloy?
none.
Okay, sige po. We have
1 minute.
1 more minute. Yeah, so this will be the last question we will be entertaining.
Sir, clarify ko lang, dun sa question, follow up lang dun sa question kanina on the impact if they will not surrender, Senator Bato. So, ang option lang natin is compliance, but it will depend on the legal option. So, yung length lang ng ang pag-uusapan natin kung saan yung route siya mapupunta, but we will have to comply. Tama ba yun?
Yeah, I believe we will have to comply. You're correct in pointing out that one of the possible effects would be, or one of the possible situations would be just determining the length of time when it would actually be implemented. Kasi depending on the route that you will take, nabanggit na nga kanina, kapag extradition, it takes quite some time because you still have to go through a trial, whereas a surrender could be immediate. So again, no, in as much as there has been no decision yet as to what route to take or what option to take, no, and as much as we have not yet received or seen a copy of the warrant, everything is still there. No, these are still options which are still being considered.
Okay, so with that, thank you everyone for your time.